Your circle will change as you accomplish your goals and level up. Everybody can't go.
And we live. Happy Wednesday and welcome to another Everybody Can't Go Convo. This week I have for you guys a special treat. As you can see, we have Dawn Stone, the conflict chick, in the building with us today. So you guys have heard me talk about conflicts and challenges between friends, family members, in romantic relationships and social circles, sometimes at work, but and sometimes with that, everybody can't go. And so I thought, who better to bring in than the conflict chick so that we can dig into that a little bit more and talk about that some more so that we can be prepared with healthy ways to approach these challenges, so that we can be a safe space, so that we can provide that safe space for an opportunity for solutions, so that we can get to resolution, and ultimately so that you guys can grow, preferably before things get out of control. And so today we're going to be getting some info from Dawn Stone, the conflict chick. So Dawn, go ahead, introduce yourself to the people. Let us know what's going on within your brand and what inspired your brand.
Hey, peacemakers. Thank you for having me here. I love the work you do. And the topic today is what I do. Literally, I did not choose conflict, it chose me. But I am Dawn Stone, owner and operator of the Conflict Chick LLC. We are an organization that is designed to help you manage your mess. And what I mean by that is we build confident leaders with improved competency around conflict resolution and ways to create peaceful spaces. And we also help you build connections by understanding that conflict is neutral. It is neither positive or negative until you attach your emotion to it. So I've been working in this space literally since about 2012 officially as a business. And I started out as a company called Conflict and Communication Specialist. But then guess what? Everybody was like, huh? And so, what I found in my work is people cannot move forward until they can push past the mess. So, it could be personal, it could be professional, it could be relational, it could be your family, child. And so, I literally am what they call a Rule 31 certified mediator. So, it means I get paid to sit and help people find peaceful solutions and learn to negotiate, learn to take a little no, and no means new opportunity, but also to take action. So in my business, I get paid to help people not stress the mess and to manage the mess. So that's what I do, and I love it.
All right. Now that was a mouthful. And I don't know about for all of you guys, how many of you all knew that that was an actual profession, and that you ain't got to be going back and forth hour after hour, week after week, month after month. You can get a professional mediator to go ahead and find a win-win for everybody within a conflict. So, with that being said, what kinds of conflict do you coach others through resolving? What are some examples of like conflicts that you've dealt with that you're able to share with us?
Absolutely. So the fun thing that I get to do, I get to work globally. So I literally have people that I've worked with as well as organizations around the world that have come to me and said, you know what? I got a person who is not being a team player. I have a team that is underperforming. I have a person of color. A lot of times they come to me. I have a person of color that just can't seem to get their bearings. Can you help? Or I have an ally leader who is being harmful. Can you help them? And so in my work, I really get an opportunity to help people do three things. Number one, they've got to understand their emotional intelligence levels. And so what that is four things, right? You have to understand that you need to be self-aware. So I help people find their own awareness. A lot of people walk through life and be like, I didn't know it was harmful. Well, shoot, you need to Be like me. It took me 30 years to get this position. So I work intergenerationally around organizations who do work with other organizations, people in the nonprofit sector who are creating spaces and saving money and even spending money to help historically marginalized communities of color. I get to do that work and help them understand what it looks like to live, breathe, and thrive as a Black woman, as a Native woman, as a queer man, as a um, transgender person, as a veteran, as an amputee, as a blind, hard of hearing, deaf person. Um, the thing it runs the gamut, and so what I really love about my life is that I get to help people find spaces and places that work, and each and every one is a unique chess piece. So I get to work across multiple industries. I'm in high tech. I'm in AI. Literally, I have AI companies that have 100% virtual team across different continents, and they'll have me as their trainer to help them build employee relationships, help them build the leaders for the next step, and also help them to understand why conflict is there. So I'll give you a good quick example. If you've ever been on a Zoom call or a group me call or a WhatsApp call, and someone who's in a position of power says, "Hey, can everybody turn their cameras on?" I get to coach and train people on that because that is historically not a safe space for everyone. Because being in a space like how we are here today is very uncomfortable for some people. And culturally, it's inappropriate. So being able to share information, education, lives, and losses with people to help them be self aware. Then you have to move into what's called self regulation. We have a filter, right? So I get to bring in neuroscience and psychology and sociology and epigenetics and all these different fields of knowledge around conflict resolution and say, hey, a person who has all of these identities is a unique person. So we need to treat them with the respect that they desire. Oh, yeah. And how would you like to clarify that? So I get to work in the nonprofit sector, corporate America, educational sector. So that's pre K through graduate students. Um, it it never ever fails. Like with everything I do, debt collectors. I have a client right now. I'm working on a deal for them where I rolled out their entire DEI process. I helped them define where their company was today and to create better spaces for them tomorrow. And literally, they have been my client. This is now going into our fourth year. And so when you look at things like that, it's like, wow, this is great. But to change and to understand conflict means I had to have an awareness. I had to make sure I'm regulated. And then you also have to do some other things around your emotional intelligence. How do you move? How do you react? How do you come back? Because in this space, y'all, nobody gets it perfect. And I get to work with families. I get to work with churches. I get to work with organizations. I'm affiliated with a Greek organization, and so I have the diaspora there as well. So it's really fun because people come to me usually because they say I have a problem. Either we have an impasse, which is a place where we're stuck. They're like, we have an impasse. We got to get this event off the ground, and Sally won't do her job. And what they find is there's something in that person's self which is preventing them from moving forward. And my role is to unlock those gifts within each and every leader, regardless of where they're located, regardless of their identities, regardless of their needs. And I do a pin. So they have a position. So I help them identify their position. I also help them understand their interests. Sometimes maybe Sally just don't want to be here because she don't like you and she don't like the way you ask your questions. So as a mediator, I get to come in and say, hey, and sometimes I have friendly banter. It depends on who it is. Hey, girl, hey. She wants you to stop asking her to turn her camera on. She wants you to appreciate her for her gifts because she has not let you down. So sometimes it's that regulation of the person who's wanting the information and they're frustrated because they don't have the control, right? That's the position. And so then when they know the interests of Sally, Sally just wanted to get her job done and you leave her alone. So like, okay. And then we go, what is the need? The need is we got to get this event done by September 30th. Are y'all ready? right? So putting a pin in it is really one of the processes that I use, and that's actually a tool that I teach every single person that comes through any of my programs, whether I'm working with the corporation itself or the individual and leader within that organization. It makes no difference. So think about it. If you could really unpack your pen every time you faced a question or a rebuttal or a challenge, think of how quickly you'd be able to solve your own opportunity. Think about that. So that's kind of what I do, and I'll give you an idea. A lot of people like receipts, darn receipts. This is a full career. This is what I do full time. And so from that, I get to work with organizations like the United Way. You may have heard of them. 100 Black Women, National Coalition of 100 Black Women, National Coalition of 100 Black Men, SHRM, Society of Human Resource Managers. This is a national organization that has thousands of people who are human resource specialists, so I train them. All right. So those are just a few. And Urban League. And Urban League is also a national organization. So I get to work with the Urban League of Middle Tennessee, and I am an educator around emotional intelligence and career success as well as workforce development for Black and Brown communities in and around Tennessee. I will be doing the same in Arkansas. Not Arkansas. I've done some work in Arkansas too, but that's a different thing. I'll be able to do the same thing in Alabama. And so when you think about all the places that you've seen conflict, I have a church in Louisville, Kentucky that is putting on a conference for reentry and helping people understand what it means to handle people with substance use disorders. So I have put together a program and a plan and a event, like all three, for 8 different organizations across 4 states to come together one weekend in August. And so, I get to do a lot of different things. So being not only a strategist, a keynote speaker, people hire me to speak. I'm also helping people down at the ground level get the things that they need. So it gets back to those PNs, right? So that's what I do. That's a few of the things.
Those few little things, that's a lot. And I know for sure making a whole lot of impact with being able to help folks smooth things over, especially when you get to that point where you were talking about having that impasse. That definitely that's the place where a lot of times we'll go ahead and just see a relationship deteriorate as the two people just they get to that point and then go ahead and detach. And with that being said, is there always a healthy resolution to conflict, or at least
Mhm.
always a win-win in conflict?
There is not always a win-win, but there is a healthy alternative for each and every person. So, part of that emotional intelligence is to know when. So, I have a slogan that I use in my business that says, hold boundaries, not grudges. And I
Mm.
literally mean that because when you hold a boundary at work, you hold a boundary personally, you hold a boundary even with your child. You hold a boundary with your pet that's your fur baby, your dog, your cat. What you are doing is in essence addressing some need that you have within yourself, right? And so part of knowing that you must be healthy at all times, you may decide to detach from the conflict altogether. And for you, that is a resolution. And so what I get to do is I get to share with people. There are 5 major ways that we end a conflict. Either we're going to compete, meaning you and I are going to go head to head, Jesse. I'm going to take what I want. It's me, my way or no way, my way or the highway. And so if you're not going to give me what I want, bye. All right. So again, that's a resolution. That's not a win-win, but somebody wins something. But so you want to look at it's disproportionately different. And so we always want to get people to go to some of the other zones. We have collaboration. Collaboration is a high emphasis on relationship. Yes, Jesse, I respect you. I want to keep this intact and I want us to come up with a solution for us. So that collaboration allows you to win some and me to win some, but we both are going to lose a little bit. Okay. Then you have this whole thing of avoidance. So this is where Jesse and I are in conflict, and Jesse's like, "Hey, Dawn, can you give me a call? I'll be right back. Hold on," and I never come back. So again, I solved it, but I didn't solve it in a way that was amicable for both parties. So again, that's a win lose. But for me, maybe I had to because emotionally I couldn't do it, or maybe just I didn't have the time. It was a bandwidth issue. But the goal in having healthy communication to make that one better is to say, "Hey, Jesse, I just can't give you anything. I can't commit to any other things right now." And that's why I say no means new opportunity, because you have a new opportunity to reframe the way you view that. Some people take no as "I can't believe they're rejecting me," when it may just be now is not the time. Delayed but not denied. Delayed but not denied. So if I have to go somewhere else and get it, fine. My resolution with you is done for now, right? And then there's another one what we call, and this was very hard, where a person is very high in their relationships and very low in the task, which means they fold like a lawn chair. Have you heard that term before? It's like they're going to give in to you. And I love this example from, and here I go with my culture, right? This example for Coming to America, when in the original, the wife was like, "What do you want to do? What do you like? Whatever you like, whatever
Hmm.
you want, wherever you go." And that's a person that's an extreme harmonizer. So in that scenario, Jesse, that harmonizer doesn't win, but the person who's the opposite of them does. So you see how conflict is like a seesaw. But what you want to do is to get that seesaw balance so both of you can get off in a healthy place. And you can do that regardless of the relationship that you have, as long as you keep the task and the relationship with boundaries and be willing to advocate for yourself and what you want and need. And it works itself out.
So with you walking us through that,
Mm-hmm.
that brings me back to what you were talking about a bit ago with the self-awareness. It seems like if not impossible, it's going to prove to be very difficult to be able to get that effective communication so that you and the other person, or so that myself and yourself would be able to get to that, okay, let's have this collab. We both will get to win a bit. We'll both have to lose a couple of things, but we'll get to the end goal and get a better outcome for everyone involved. And some of the other scenarios that you gave there, I can see how it would be very easy to fall into any of those other categories if you have low self awareness, or dare I say, no self awareness. And
Yes.
you could be on either side of that conflict or argument, whether you're the
Mm-hmm.
people pleaser, the extreme harmonizer, or whether you're the person that you just love being around such and such because they always say yes. And you never have a care in the world because whatever you say is that's what it's going to be. And without being aware of yourself, both of those people from the outside looking in, one could say, "Oh, well, such and such, they're just not a very nice person. Look at how they treat that other person." But that may not necessarily be the case. It could be an extreme lack of unawareness of self on both parties, and they're just operating in that lack of self-awareness. So I love how you broke down like all of those different types of conflict and dynamics between people, because oftentimes without the education behind it, without it being put into a certain set of terms, we're more we're more likely to look at a situation and kind of just make that first assumption. Even if it's not just the first assumption, you may actually take the time to observe someone's behavior and make an assumption or make some decisions to yourself and create some biases in your own head based upon what you've seen, not even considering, well, is that person aware of the way that they're acting or not? And therein, that could create a whole new set of conflict. So I really liked
Yes.
that breakdown. That was very
I
useful.
appreciate it. Yeah, that's why I love what I do. It's a beautiful game. It's an opera and it's a love story. Because in essence, a lot of people don't like me in their business. But once I get there, they're like, man, I'm glad you're here. I learned so much about myself because it starts in the mirror. And that's the part because some people are so unwilling to address themselves that it becomes a problem. And there's a term for that. There's a level of dissonance that happens where you basically are Mr. Magoo, right? You see a pond, you see a hole, but you're gonna keep walking forward because somehow the car magically appears and you can walk through it and all the things. And there are people who live like this, Jesse. And you think about that even in relationships. Sometimes we romanticize an experience. We do it at work. Oh man, it's my favorite job. It's the best job I've ever dreamed of having. But what happens when we have that boss that is not a good people leader? How can I have autonomy and love within myself, remain regulated, remain self aware, and also get the task done? Right? And some of us, like you said, you brought up some really interesting things, but there are a lot of people who are procrastinators, people pleasers, super competitive, warriors, and warriors. So when you have those dynamics all working for the same company, it becomes an issue.
Mm-hmm. And to me, the issues arise there when, like you said, everyone doesn't know what category they fall in. And those all of those different personality traits can be used both in a positive and negative way. But it takes knowing yourself and knowing, when is me being this way going to be a strength to myself and my team, and when am I the disruptor, or when is this, is causing a disturbance in the force, as we're trying to get to that end goal.
Right. And you're speaking
So,
truth, and I'm glad you brought this up too, Jesse. Just real quick, I know we probably need to move on, but um, being aware means understanding that you have great traits that could also be great flaws, and to be able to use it as a rubber band. So every gift that you have within you is within the elasticity of your imagination, right? Your greatest imagination. You may be the best task giver in the world, but just know that if you pull somebody's rubber band a little too hard that's not like you, they will break. And so we must always be aware. And that's where the regulation comes in. There's a little bit
mhm.
of tug just to be uncomfortable, but not break yourself or the other person. That's all I wanted to add.
That's really good with the way that we operate and communicate. Be elastic, because I definitely, that put me in the mind frame of people ask me sometimes, they're like, well, you get along with so many different people, and I'm like, oh, that's because I speak so that I can be heard and understood. And they're like, well, what does that mean? There's only one you. And I'm like, I could say the exact same thing to five different people, but I'm going to say the same thing to them in the way that they're able to receive it. It doesn't matter how I want to give it. If that's not your personality type, that's not your learning style, that's not the way that you like to receive communication, I can talk until I'm blue in the face. I could have given the best presentation ever. I could have been more than abundantly clear. But when we take that people element out of there, to me, I just see it as, I'm not going to make a commitment to being misunderstood. So if and when I need to do that be that rubber band and that elastic, I'll go ahead and do that stretch or do that bring it in. Sometimes I'm a little excited. I need to bring it down a bit. Sometimes I have to lower my voice. And as I start to get excited while I'm speaking, I'm like, oh, I feel myself getting louder again. Or my mom tells me all the time, she's like, you're yelling. And I'm like, oh, was I yelling? I did get a bit excited there. Okay, let me bring it down and start from the bottom again. So I really like that. That's a whole t-shirt right there. Be the rubber band. Be the rubber band. So in terms of the tackling conflicts, do you have any like one size fits all solutions, or do we need to be more so like equipped with like a toolkit of different things as we come up against conflict?
The great thing, that's a very good question. So, the thing that I want to share is there is the one thing that you can really, really do no matter what level of conflict, wherever your journey is, no matter what type of conflict you're in, is to do two things well. Number one is listen. 2 hours, one mouth, 2 ears, one mouth, and 2 eyes, one mouth still for a reason. Use your senses. And with listening is the number one thing you can do, because in that listening, you're able to hear that person's perspective. You're able to hear their voice. You're able to see, if you are, even if you can't in words, you still will be able to read a little of what they are saying. And when you listen, the key to this in conflict, the one tool that everybody must have, is to ask questions. So we use a funnel approach, and I teach this in my work, where we start at a very high level. So you think about a funnel or ice cream cone. We're going to go at the point of sugar cone. What's a sugar plane? Sugar cone. So the point is, you start big and you end small. So when you start big, you're going to ask very open-ended questions. And the best question, I want somebody, whoever's listening, stop now, rewind it. This is the best question you can ask, whether you're in a relationship that you're questioning, you're in a work debacle over some report that you didn't do or somebody else botched, whether you're in with your own children, your own family, trying to plan a family reunion. You ask this one question: help me to understand, and then you insert what it is you're trying to figure out. That question right there helps. What it does is it takes all of the angst out the question. It takes the defensiveness out of the question. And you don't lead with a word you. You don't know what you're doing. See, you just say, help me to understand um, where we are as it relates to the family reunion. You know? And so what they'll do, Jimmy gonna come and tell you, well, the younger generation, y'all was supposed to do such and such and such. So you're listening. And as you're listening, take those notes. Because then you'll be able to go and talk to Jimmy and maybe talk to Paw and talk. I'm sorry, I'm from the true South, so I do have two Paws, okay? It's real people. And Big Mama. And Big Mama's the matriarch on my mom's side. So I can talk to Big Mama and Papa and find out what everybody else needs, because I was the one listening in the room. So that is your greatest gift. If you are destined to be the peacemaker that you are, you have to give peace. And peace is listening and also asking those questions. So the next level of questions is really going to be about, all right, let me get more clarity around this. So we have an original date for the family reunion, and that date slipped because, or how did we get to this point of missing the initial date? So you can do it, use your own style, but it's still asking those questions. Then the next level of this funnel is you're going to take them to analysis. So it looks like we have two dates left. We now have September or October. Does anyone know why or where these two dates fall as it relates to other family things and birthdays and holidays? Right? So then the group is still talking and you're still taking notes. Then you get them down. This is near the bottom of the cone. You get them to a decision. So, what is our final decision? Or do we have a final option? And they talk again. So literally, you know what happens because you've asked all the questions? You've controlled the conversation. You've controlled the outcomes because you gathered the information. And then the last part is, have I missed anything? What have I missed? What are the risks if we wait until October instead of doing September? You hear it? And then the last thing is the decision, where they decide to commit to whatever they got. And that is called your BATNA, your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. And that agreement is the one that everybody in that room came up with. So that's Big Mama, Pawpaw, you, Joe, and one of your aunts that's on Skype or whatever they're using these days. Some people still using Skype. On the phone or FaceTime. Yeah, some have upgraded now. So whoever's on FaceTime. And so then your last question is, can we all agree on this, or do we have a final agreement? Because somebody read the final thing that we decided today, and they'll just recant it and you say, okay, Is it okay if I reread what I heard? So you're reframing. So now everybody is signed in on it, and it goes back to what we said. Everybody won't get everything, but everyone gets something. And that is how you resolve conflict.
That was really good. And I can see how committing those different steps to the, I don't want to say funnel, I want to say ice cream cone too. All of the
It is
steps in
ice
the
cream
ice
cone.
all of those steps in that ice cream cone, it will actually guide that conversation in a way that is fruitful, in a way that you will get to an end result. Y'all know I'm all about getting to a good end result. And to me, part of what makes it good for everyone is, like you said, everybody has some input, everybody gets some wins. To me, that's exactly how I plan a vacation. Once it was questioned, well, why Jesse always get to be in charge when we going on a group trip? And somebody said, hey, shut up. That's because Jesse find out what does everybody want to do. And I'm like, well, how are we all going to have fun if I don't find out what every single person wants to do and create this amazing itinerary so everyone has an amazing time? Does everyone get to do exactly what they want to do every single day, morning, afternoon, evening, and late night? No, but there are options available, and there is the choice on whether or not things will be participated in. But the one thing that is for sure across the board is that there are activities throughout the week that everybody absolutely will, they're just gonna die if they can't do it. And then there are some things that they want to try, some new things they want to experience, some things that it may be tolerable, or you know what, I never thought of that. But because we have this togetherness and everyone was a part of making the decisions, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to try that. And sometimes
Mm-hmm.
you find out it was awesome and you like it. Sometimes it's like, I mean, that was cool, but I wouldn't do it again. But it was
Right.
good to find out. And that very same thing, like you said, can be taken across, from family to a romantic relationship, even within your friend group. Next time all y'all together, girl, don't y'all waste 30, 45 minutes talking about, well, where we gonna go to eat, where we having cocktails.
Right.
Everybody can put those ideas in the hat, weigh those pros and cons. Go down, somebody take onus. You, since you're the one that's listening to the pod, you go ahead and take the steps within that sugar cone, and then you can go ahead, put your dollop of ice cream on top, and make it
Mm-hmm.
sweet because you're
That's
following
right.
those steps to make sure that it's a amicable decision for everyone.
That's right. That's perfect. You did that's exactly what you do, and that's how we get a triple decker. Maybe we won't just need one. I want a scoop of Rocky Road. Maybe somebody wants chocolate. Maybe someone else wants uh, some cookie combination, and then we want sprinkles on top. Go ahead. That's exactly how you make your ice cream, and it's not melting because you're not sitting around waiting and pouting. Because some people like to do that too.
Hmm. That definitely happens. And when that does happen, we're right back at square one where there are all of these options that are unsaid. And what's the difference? So we all just gonna sit here miserable because nobody wants to speak up, or because we can't come to a resolution together
Mhm.
that is one that benefits everybody, at least in some way, shape, or form. Even though you can't win it all, I would rather have me a strong 85% of what I want
Right.
amongst a group of happy individuals than to have 100% of what I want, but I done pissed off everybody in the process.
Right.
Because there's definitely a better way to operate, and depending on what you count as a win, I would count that everybody being happy at 85%. As a win over, a couple of people got to take a complete L, and they're at a zero while we're all trying to work together or enjoy one another's company for sure.
And that's actually a good point because I was going to give some percentages. And whether you're making a decision at work, sometimes you're working on a project with coworkers, and there are people who are a little more vocal, may have a little more social clout than you. Um, if you're anywhere between 50 and 80% of what you want, that's winning. Now, if you're down in like the tens and 20%, you definitely want to reestablish that voice and get some other people. That's a whole nother class. We can talk about that because that's Yeah, some people need ambassadors, some people need advocates, others need folks who can just activate you, whatever that looks like for you. And so it's cool. I love doing this work because no matter what, conflict is something you face every single day. Maybe you didn't know what you were going to wear today. Maybe you have no idea what you're going to eat for dinner. Maybe someone cut you off on the way to come and view this. Everything happens. And when it happens, the question is, what are you going to do about it? And how are you prepared to handle it in a meaningful and healthy way for you and everyone else involved?
If you enjoyed what you just heard with Jesse and Dawn Stone, the conflict chick, join us next week for an exciting part 2 of this Everybody Can't Go convo.